Hello everyone and welcome back to my channel. My name is Erin and for today's video I'm going to be talking to you all about some quick and captivating reads because finals is coming up. Finals are coming up. Erin, really? So for today's video we have my dog. She'll be moving around a lot because she always does whenever I film. Hi guys, my name is Erin and for today's video I'm going to be bringing you some quick and captivating reads because I know for a lot of people finals are coming up, it's very stressful, and I know that while studying is important, I like to read and like feel productive in that aspect of my life, and it's better if you have a really quick and captivating read, hence the name of this video, so that you can get through it really quickly and be like, yes, I finished a book and now I can study and it didn't really take you that long, and so you don't feel bad for like reading a book like maybe Priory of the Orange Tree, which is 800 pages. I don't know how long that's going to take me to read. I haven't read it yet, which is why it's not on this list, but you know what I mean, like you feel like you're not taking too much time to take a break from studying, because taking a break from studying is still very important despite what people may say. You're not going to be able to comprehend and retain all of that information if you don't take breaks and you don't relax your brain. So if you like to read, this is a good outlet and you can do something, maybe finish something towards your Goodreads goal, and it won't take that much time and you can go back to studying. That was a really long intro for something that was not that deep. Okay, for this video I have a bunch of different genres. I have a little bit of contemporary, some middle grade, manga, I have fantasy, I have a classic on here, Who Am I? I have a little bit of everything so that no matter what you like to read, hopefully there's something on this list for you, because you know, it would really suck if these are all fantasy and you like contemporary. So I tried to pick a variety. They're all interspersed. I didn't sort these out because I'm really lazy, so you'll just have to keep watching. Some of these are like my favorite books of all time, and some of them I may have only given a 3 stars, but they went really quick and I enjoyed my time while reading them, so they're on this list, because during finals you're not really looking for like your new favorite book, but more like, yeah, I need a break. So that's what a lot of these books are. So let's get started. I'm going to talk about the books that I don't have with me physically first, so I don't forget them at the end of this video, because I've been known to do that. Okay, the first one is actually a series, and it's the Wayward Children series by Shauna McGuire. You guys know I loved Into the Drowning Deep by her. Well, Mira Grant, which is her pen name, and I won't shut up about it, so of course I had to mention it in this video. That one took me a long time to read though, because I really needed to take breaks from it. But the Wayward Children series, they're very short, they're all novellas. There are 4 of them out currently. There's a 5th one coming out in 2020. I'm so freaking pumped. I also highly recommend the audiobooks for these if you have a way to access them. I thought that those were really great. They are like 4-hour audiobooks, so they don't take very long to listen to at all. You can listen to it while you're doing your laundry, cleaning your room, before you go to bed, while you're making food, whatever the case may be. While you're just absent-mindedly making flashcards, you can be reading. I really loved these. I listened to them on my commutes to school and to work, and they were very captivating. I absolutely loved them. I talked about them in my most recent reading vlog. They were incredible and very short and very captivating. Yeah, I don't have anything else to say. That's the whole point of this video. Okay, the next one is also a very short book, and that is A Monster Calls by Patrick Ness. This is like possibly it might be my favorite book of all time. I really need to sit down and think about that so I could like make that a video and I could be like, okay, this is how it goes. But it's for sure one of my favorite books of all time. I absolutely in love with that book. It doesn't take very long. It's a hard-hitting contemporary. The Wayward Children series is like fantasy. It is fantasy, like for sure. It's about a bunch of kids that doors pop up for them randomly during their lives, during their youth rather, and it leads them into a world that is better suited for them, something that makes a lot more sense to them than this world, and then they have to come back for whatever reason, or they do come back for whatever reason, and they're trying to cope, and so they go to this school, and there are a bunch of other kids like them that they didn't even know existed, and it's incredible. So that's what that one is about. But A Monster Calls is about a boy who is dealing with the very fatal illness that his mother has, and it never comes out and says cancer, but it alludes to an illness very similar to cancer, and he's dealing with a lot of grief and a lot of guilt from that disease that his mother has, and it's completely heartbreaking. I read it in 3 hours, and I would not consider myself a fast reader by any means. I absolutely flew through it, and I was sobbing for 15 minutes. So maybe don't read this when you're taking a break, but like before bed when you're just trying to relax, and then you have to study the next morning, so that you can just have a good crying sesh right before you go to sleep. And then the last one that I don't have with me because Lindsay's still borrowing it is 99 Days by Katie Cotugno. I'm not gonna sit here and pretend that this is a perfect book. It's not. It's about a girl who cheated on her boyfriend with his brother. There are some issues, but it was really entertaining. Like, I'm not gonna pretend that it's perfect or the best book ever, but it held my attention, and I read it very, very quickly. I think I read it while I was during the end of my school, and it just got me ready for the summer mindset, because when it's not about the romance, it is about like summer, and I love that. It's like a quintessential summer book with a lot of issues. So if that's something that you can just be like, okay, you acknowledge that there are problems and then you can bypass them, not necessarily bypass them, but just, I guess, ignore them while you're reading it, then I would recommend that book. Like I said, it was very entertaining. It is one of my favorite summer atmosphere books of all time. I love it. Now we'll go to the physical books that I have. There are quite a few of them, I'm going to warn you. So the first one is adult science fiction, and I guess it could be considered a classic. Murphy Napier said it was a classic. I didn't know it was a classic, but it makes me feel really good about myself if it is considered one, because that means I read a classic and I really enjoyed one. Okay. It's Ender's Game. I don't shut up about this book either. Who's really surprised that it's on this list? It's very, very short. I think it's like 300 pages, maybe. Nope, it's not. It's like 200. I am in love with this book. The format is very, very interesting. Anyway, Ender's Game is about a boy who is the third born son, and he's like the last try to have like a perfect leader to defeat these aliens that came and invaded Earth once, and he has to go to space school, and it's incredible. It's such a smart book. It's so smart. Ender is such an amazing main character. I absolutely loved reading from him, or from his perspective. He is so smart as a character. This book is so smart. There's so much strategy. I'm obsessed with this book. Like, if A Monster Calls is not my favorite book, then this is. Like, I would have to reread them both. I probably will. Like, let's not act like that's a bad thing, but it's very short. It's very easy to fly through. I love it. There's also politics in here, if that's something that interests you. There's a lot of politics, and it's really, really cool. Alright, the next is another YA contemporary, and that is My Life Next Door by Huntley Fitzpatrick. I haven't read any other Huntley Fitzpatrick books, but this one is one of my other like favorite summery contemporaries. I loved the summery atmosphere that this book just gave off. I loved it. I read it in a day. It was so easy to just fly through. I sat down, I read it, I went for a walk to get out of my bed, I came back, and I finished it. Literally one day. It was incredible. And it like it's a decent contemporary. It's about 400 pages, but I read it in a day. So like, do with that information what you will. It's about a girl who, her life is very like, her mom's a lawyer, I think, or like a mayor or something like that. She's involved in law, and like, I think it's the mayor. And then Next door is this crazy family. They have 7 kids, or maybe it's 5 and they're a total of 7, I don't know, but there's a lot of people in that house and everything's a mess, but her life is so pristine. Her life is so pristine and their life is just a mess, and then she meets this boy and he's actually really nice, and it's a YA contemporary, so make some guesses. It's not that hard. It's incredible. It's adorable. And I love it. I need to reread this one too. All of the books that Erin needs to reread. Everything she talks about in every video that's not a book haul. The next book is actually middle grade, which I don't really talk about on this channel, and that is Land of Stories. This is book 1, The Wishing Spell by Chris Colfer. He was the actor on Glee, and his book is incredible. Please go read it. Nobody talks about this series and it makes me so freaking sad, because this series is so good, especially if you grew up loving fairy tales. That is what this is. It's about these kids who fall into a book that was their great grandmother's, they're twins, and they fall into the world of fairy tales. They get to meet a bunch of princes and princesses, and in this book they have to find their way back. It's a 6-book series. This book will not take you long at all. It's so incredibly funny, and some of the other books deal with heavier topics like divorce and different things like that. Well, not divorce. Not divorce. Maybe divorce. I don't know, but it deals with heavier topics later on in the series. This book is incredible. This book is absolutely incredible. More people need to read it. The fact that they don't is depressing, to be quite honest. And this book made me cry. Not very many books made me cry, but this one did. It's gonna make you cry, it's gonna make you laugh, it's gonna make you feel good. You're gonna relate to it, especially if you love fairy tales. Like, please just go read this. It's incredible. And it's very family friendly, so if you want to read this with your younger siblings or your mom or whatever, my family read this whole series pretty much all together and we were obsessed with it, so highly recommend. Please go read it. Nobody talks about it and it makes me so sad. It's one of the few series I have actually completed. Speaking of series I've completed, let's talk about one I haven't. Fallen Kingdoms by Morgan Rhodes. This is a high fantasy series that has been compared to Game of Thrones, and after having seen like the first few episodes of the first season, I understand the comparison. It's not as gory by any means, but there are so many twists and turns, and you can't latch on to characters for too long before they're dead. I absolutely loved it. There's a lot of romance in this book, so if that's something you're interested in. It's high fantasy, but it starts off pretty low, so that's really good. It's just completely captivating. I read this in just a few days when I was in a reading slump, literally over Thanksgiving, one of the busiest times of the year, at least for me, since I was making dinner. That was a mess. But yeah. I absolutely flew through this book. It's about this continent. There are 3 different kingdoms on it, and they're all at war with each other. It's a good time. Just, there's a lot of politics if you're into that. There's a lot of romance. There's familial relationships. There's magic, and I can't get over this shot. Please read it. It's not for everyone, but it is a very quick read, so if that's something that you're looking for, if this has intrigued you, I would recommend it, but keep in mind it's not for everyone. A lot of people give this like 3 stars, but like, it's really fast. We have another YA contemporary that gives me all of the summery atmospheric vibes, and that is Since You've Been Gone by Morgan Matson. A lot of people have read Save the Date and only Save the Date by Morgan Matson. This is very different. If you have read Save the Date and it was not your favorite Morgan Matson book, I understand. I still really liked it because it was Morgan Matson and I loved the family aspect, but this is a lot different. There's a list and it just keeps you going. I read this in freaking January and it made me really excited for summer, but also really depressed because summer wasn't coming for a long time. It's still not summer here and it's freaking May. Like, I'm not happy. That's not what we're talking about. This is about a girl whose best friend just randomly leaves. She can't get a hold of her. Nobody knows where she went. She's just gone. Since You've Been Gone by Morgan Matson. I don't think I said that yet. Why do I do book? then she gets a list from her best friend in the mail, and she thinks that if she completes all of those items on the list, she'll somehow find her best friend. And there's a romance, and it's just cute. Again, all of the summery vibes. This is a good book to transition your mindset from all of the school studying to all of the summer things that happen, and I highly recommend it. I think it's great, obviously. Next, we have the classic that I mentioned that I know is a classic, and that is Alice's Adventures in Wonderland by Lewis Carroll. I have not finished Through the Looking Glass yet, which this is a bind-up of both, but I loved Alice's Adventures in Wonderland. I also recommend the audiobook for this. It's like a couple of hours, maybe like 3 hours, and it's very, very easy to read. There's a lot of nonsense, and it's just so whimsical and fun and lighthearted, and it's fantasy, but it's a classic, but it's a very easy classic to read. So if you want to read a classic but you don't know where to start, this is a really good starting point. I thoroughly enjoyed this, and it was very, very quick. I highly recommend this. Okay, the next book is manga, which I mentioned, and that is Waiting for Spring, Volume 1. I haven't read the whole series, so I can't say that I recommend the whole series, but manga in general I find is very easy and quick to read. This is like a contemporary manga. It's about this girl who is pretty lonely, doesn't really have that many friends, and she meets these 4 guys that are the most popular guys on the basketball team in her grade, and she befriends them, and it's so cute, so freaking adorable, and just so heartwarming. I can read each of these in like a couple of hours, so if you want to take like quick little study breaks, just like read a little chapter of it. Won't take that long. Go back to studying. I mean, they're pretty hard to put down because they're just so cute, but you know, do what you gotta do. I loved these. These are by Anishan. I don't know if that's how you say that. I'm really, really sorry. But they're freaking adorable. This is so good. This is the manga that I started out with, so if you're worried that like maybe it's a little confusing, I don't think so. I mean, I still am kind of confused about some things, but like I think that's just me being stupid. Maybe it's not. But I would say that this is a decent starting point, seeing as it's the only manga I've read and I've been able to keep up for like 2 3/4 of a volume so far. Next, we have another fantasy recommendation, since that's my favorite genre, clearly. And that is An Ember in the Ashes by Sabaa Tahir. You guys know that I am absolutely enamored with this series. She says even though she hasn't finished book 3. I was obsessed with this book. I read it in just a few days. It was just so good. You care so much about the characters instantly, but that doesn't mean that the plot is boring. Sabaa Tahir manages to cut out all of the very boring, dull parts that a lot of other authors leave in their books, like when you're traveling through a desert and you're traveling and traveling and traveling and nobody cares. She cuts it out and we just skip to all of the good parts. So you're on the edge of your seat like the whole time, or at least I was. Maybe that was just me, but this is incredible. I absolutely loved it. Very quick read. Next, we have a couple of thrillers, because thrillers are always very quick to read. This one I distinctly remembered during the end of my senior year when things were, you know, stressful. I think I was procrastinating doing my senior thesis by reading this. Wouldn't shock me, honestly. But that is Dangerous Girls by Abigail Haas. Please don't let this cover deter you. It's not super it's a little cheesy, but like I loved it. I was on the edge of my seat. There is like flashbacks and stuff, and there are like police interviews and conversations that are had, and it's incredible. The book starts out with a phone call to 911. So basically this is about a group of friends that went to Aruba for spring break. Must be nice. Cannot relate. The main character's best friend dies, and she is the #1 suspect for her murder. So she has to be proven innocent, not guilty, however you want to call it. And the whole time that she has to like be on trial for all of this, she has to stay in Aruba while all of her friends get to go home because they're not suspects for the case. It's very suspenseful and so interesting, and the ending is wild. If you haven't ever really read like a thriller, mystery, murder, whatever you want to call this book, I would again say that this is a good starting point because this is what I started with and I absolutely loved it, and I didn't find it too scary because I am a huge wimp and I didn't think that this was that bad. Like it was intense, but it wasn't like, oh, somebody's gonna come kill you. You know what I mean? The last book is another like psychological thriller kind of thing, and that is We Were Liars by E. Lockhart. This is just incredible. I read this very quickly as well. I think just a couple of days. And I can't really tell you what it's about. It's about these group of kids that most summers go to this private island. Again, must be nice. And they hang out together, and this girl, that's all I can say actually. The main character's a girl, her name's Cadence. That's all I can say. Those are all of the books. Oh, I wanted to mention Saga, I forgot to grab it, by Brian K. Vaughan and Fiona Staples. This is a graphic novel, so if that's something that you are looking for and that wasn't on this list, there's a graphic novel for you. Saga, it's excellent. It's my favorite graphic novel series. It's one of my favorite series. There are currently 9 volumes out. We don't know when we're getting the 10th one, and I'm currently dying. It's incredible. I absolutely loved it. When I was currently reading it, I would read 2 volumes back to back at a time, and then I needed the rest of them. So if you read the first one and you enjoy it, I would recommend, like, if you can, buy as many as possible at once because you're just gonna want to binge read them. They're intense. They're very explicit, both sexually and with the language. So if that's something that bothers you, there's also a lot of violence, but it's a sci-fi fantasy graphic novel series. Some people call it like a Romeo Juliet in space kind of thing, and I see how it alludes to that, but it's not too heavy on that, so if that's something that bothers you, like, don't worry about it. But it's incredible, and it's narrated by the kid of these 2 people that weren't ever supposed to be together because their planets were at war. It's dope. Read it if it's something that interests you. I highly recommend it. It's a great place to start if you've never read a comic graphic novel before. I loved it. That's everything that I have for you guys today. I really hope that you guys enjoyed. I know that I threw a lot of recommendations at you. I hope that your finals go well. I'm really praying for you. My finals, I only had 1 by the grace of God. Thank you. I really hope that they're going well. Mine are over, and I'm so excited for summer where I can put out tons of really fun and new content for you guys and really spend some time on it and hopefully more of it. I have a lot of really fun videos planned. One of them, it's gonna take some time to film, but I'm really freaking pumped. I really hope that you guys enjoyed this video, and I really hope to see you all in my next one. Bye guys. Also, before I go, I think that this might be the next video up on my channel, so if it is, I don't want this to like just go unnoticed. Thank you for 100 subscribers. I talk about it in my current reading vlog that I'm doing, so there's a better thank you there, but I wanted to mention it here. I didn't not notice. I noticed. Thank you a lot. It means a lot. You guys are the best. So, thank you. Yeah, I'm actually gonna go now. I need a drink of water. My mouth is dry. Athena, do you have any last thoughts? You look terrified. Okay, we're done, I promise. Love you guys.